Right now, in the days leading into the Pisces Lunar Eclipse on August 28th, something is happening to you that will feel a lot like hope, but it isn't. You've probably felt it in just the last few days. A daydream that shows up uninvited, the better job, the healed relationship, the calmer home, the version of your life where everything finally feels okay. It feels productive. It feels like you're preparing for something. But here's the question. This eclipse is about to force into the open. What if the future you keep rehearsing in your mind has quietly become the place you go to avoid the one moment you're actually standing in? Something small may happen in the next few days. A quiet, ordinary moment that will make the gap between the life you're imagining and the life you're in impossible to keep ignoring. And how you respond to that moment may decide which side of this eclipse you wake up on. Here's what's quietly splitting people right now, and it has nothing to do with luck. One group is starting to feel a strange discomfort with their own imagination. The daydream that used to feel soothing now feels a little hollow, a little late, like a rerun they've seen too many times. They're noticing, maybe for the first time, how much of their day gets spent narrating a someday instead of living a today. And instead of running from that discomfort, they're letting it wake them up. The other group is doing the opposite. They're reaching for the daydream harder than ever, using it as a reward after a hard day, a place to disappear to during a boring meeting, a soft room to hide in when today feels like too much. They're mistaking the vividness of the fantasy for progress. They believe that because they've imagined the better version of their life in such detail, they must be close to it. They are not close to it. They're 2 inches outside of it, and they've been standing there so long, it started to feel like home. So ask yourself, honestly, when your mind drifts, does it drift toward planning or toward escaping? Because one of those builds a life, the other just postpones one. The ones who come back to today will find this eclipse handing them something real to work with. The ones who stay lost in the daydream will open their eyes on the other side of it and realize they built nothing at all. They just got better at pretending. Let's talk about why you started doing this, because you didn't wake up one day and decide to abandon your own life for an imaginary one. Nobody does that on purpose. This started as protection. Somewhere back there, and it might have been earlier than you think, reality became a place that hurt, or bored you, or simply didn't have room for what you needed. Maybe it was a childhood where the real house was tense, so you built a better one in your head, complete with a version of your family that actually listened. Maybe it was a relationship where the person in front of you kept disappointing you, so you quietly started dating a future version of them instead. The one who'd finally change, finally show up, finally be who you needed. Maybe it was simply a life that felt too small for what you wanted, so your mind did what minds do when the walls feel too close. It went looking for a door, even an imaginary one. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. That daydream you feel guilty about was never a character flaw. It was a survival skill. A mind that can imagine a better future is a mind that refused to let the worst moment be the final one. Somewhere along the way, imagining a better life was the only thing that got you through a version of the present you couldn't yet change. The problem was never that you could dream. The problem is that a skill built for emergencies became your default setting for ordinary Tuesdays. You kept the exit open long after the fire was out, and now you use it even when there's nowhere you actually need to escape from. You use it out of habit, out of comfort, out of a groove worn so deep into your mind that today barely gets a chance to compete with it. You're not lazy. You're not avoidant by nature. You built a very good room to hide in, back when you needed one. The eclipse isn't shaming you for building it. It's simply asking if you still need it, or if you've just forgotten how to leave. The daydream that once rescued you may be the very thing keeping you from the life it was trying to protect. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this habit doesn't just live quietly inside your head. It leaks out into your actual relationships, whether you've noticed it or not. Think about the friend who's technically sitting across from you at dinner, but you're only half in the conversation because part of you is drafting the version of your life you'll have once things are figured out. Think about the partner who can feel, even if they can't name it, that you're not fully arriving into the relationship you're actually in, because some part of you is still auditioning a better one in your imagination. Think about the parent, the sibling, the child who has learned that when you go quiet, you've left the room without leaving the room, that your body stays, but you don't. People around you may start pulling back without fully knowing why. Not because they're rejecting you, but because it's exhausting to compete with a fantasy for someone's attention, especially a fantasy that never talks back, never disappoints, never asks anything hard of you. Real people interrupt. Real people have bad days. Real people need things from you in this moment, not in the someday you keep rehearsing. And if part of you is always somewhere else, the people in front of you can feel the door that's propped open behind your eyes. Here's the reframe though, and it might sting a little before it helps. If certain relationships have started to feel distant, thin, or strangely quiet lately, that may not be a punishment. It may be a mirror. It may be your own half-presence reflected back at you, showing you exactly how much of yourself you've been withholding for a future that hasn't earned it yet, a future that frankly doesn't need you nearly as much as the people standing right in front of you do. The relationships fading right now may not be leaving you. They may simply be refusing to compete with a version of you that isn't real. Here's what it may actually feel like in your body as this eclipse builds, because it rarely announces itself as a thought first. It shows up as a feeling. It might feel like static, a low, restless hum under your skin when you're forced to sit in a moment with nowhere else to go. A red light, a waiting room, a quiet house at 9 p.m. with nothing to distract you. Suddenly your mind reaches for the daydream, like a hand reaching for a phone. And when the daydream doesn't come as easily as it used to, you might feel oddly exposed, almost naked, like someone pulled a blanket off you mid-sleep. It might feel like grief, with no name attached to it, a heaviness that shows up when you realize how much time has passed while you were narrating a life you weren't living. It might even feel like boredom, sharp and uncomfortable, because your actual day has never had to compete with an edited, highlight reel version of your life before, and now that it does, today feels dull by comparison. None of that means something is wrong with you. It means the anesthesia is wearing off. Think of it like stepping out of a warm bath into cold air. For a moment, every part of you screams to get back in. The water was comfortable, the air feels harsh, unfair, too much all at once. But you were never meant to live in that bath. You were meant to get clean and get moving. And the cold air, uncomfortable as it is simply proof that you actually left. The discomfort isn't the eclipse hurting you. It's your nervous system recalibrating to a temperature it forgot was survivable, the temperature of now. This stage may not feel like awakening. It may feel like withdrawal. And in a way, it is. You're pulling back from a substance you didn't know you were using. But withdrawal is not the same as damage. It's the body's proof that something real is finally being metabolized instead of avoided. If the next few days feel unusually flat, restless, or strangely emotional for no clear reason, that's not you regressing. That's you finally arriving somewhere you've been circling for a long time, your own life. The static you're feeling isn't a malfunction. It's what it sounds like when a life finally reconnects to its source. So what does this actually look like over the next few days, in real, ordinary moments, not metaphors, not mysticism, just your actual Tuesday? Watch for the reflex, that specific moment when something mildly uncomfortable happens, a boring task, an awkward silence, a hard conversation, and your mind instantly offers you an exit ramp into the future. Once I have the new job, this won't matter. Once we move, things will be different. Once I meet the right person, I won't feel this lonely. That reflex is the pattern in action. Live in real time. You don't need to fight it. You just need to notice it. The way you'd notice a habit you're trying to break, with curiosity, not shame. Watch for the conversations you drift out of. Notice the exact sentence, the exact topic that sends you reaching for the daydream instead of staying present. It's usually not random. It's usually the moment someone needs something real from you. Attention, patience, an honest answer. And the fantasy is simply easier to give your energy to than the actual ask in front of you. And watch for the small, unglamorous tasks you keep pushing to someday. The phone call, the appointment, the drawer you keep meaning to clean out, the conversation you keep rehearsing in your head instead of having out loud. These aren't random either. They're usually the exact places where today is quietly waiting for you to show up. And the daydream keeps offering you a more comfortable place to be instead. Here's the practice. Simple as it sounds. When you catch the drift happening, don't shame yourself out of it. Just ask one question. What is actually true, right here, right now? Not the future version, not the improved one. What's true in this exact room, at this exact moment? Say it out loud if you have to. Name the chair you're sitting in. Name the person across from you. Name the task on your desk. That's the tether. That's how you find your way back from 2 inches outside your life to actually standing inside it. You won't do this perfectly, and you don't need to. You just need to catch it more than you used to. The eclipse isn't asking you to stop dreaming. It's asking you to stop using the dream as an address you never actually move into. Here's the part almost everyone gets wrong about this eclipse, and it's the part that actually matters most. Most people, once they realize they've been living 2 inches outside their life, do something that looks like progress but isn't. They swap one daydream for another. They stop imagining the fantasy future and start imagining the fantasy fix. The perfect morning routine, the perfect mindset, the perfect version of presence where they never drift again. They trade an old escape hatch for a shinier one and call it healing. But it's the same room with a new coat of paint. You haven't come back to your life. You've just found a more spiritual sounding place to hide from it. And here's the pattern interrupt, because this is the part that tends to catch people off guard. Coming back to the present is not going to feel like relief. Not at first. It's going to feel disappointingly ordinary. The real version of your life, the one you've been avoiding by narrating a better one, has dishes in the sink. It has an unanswered text you've been dreading. It has a body that's tired and a bank account that isn't where you want it, and a relationship that needs an actual conversation, not a rescue fantasy. Most people flinch at that ordinariness and quietly go looking for the next daydream, mistaking boredom for evidence that presence isn't working. The hidden truth is this: the present was never going to compete with the fantasy on excitement. It was never supposed to. The present's job isn't to entertain you, it's to be buildable. You cannot build anything inside a daydream. You can only rehearse. Every brick, every real change, every actual different version of your life has only ever been assembled in the plain, unglamorous now, never in the version you were narrating from a distance. So the deeper choice this eclipse is actually offering isn't fantasy versus reality. It's this: are you willing to stay in an ordinary moment long enough to build something real in it, even though it will never feel as good as the daydream did? Because that discomfort, that flatness, isn't a sign you're doing it wrong. It's the exact texture of a life actually being lived instead of narrated. The daydream will always feel better than today. That was never the test. The test is whether you'll stay anyway. Here's the part I actually want you to sit with, because this is where everything changes. Imagine, just for a moment, what your life looks like 6 months from now if you keep choosing today over the daydream, even when today is boring, even when it's hard, even when the fantasy is right there offering you an easier place to be. Imagine the relationship that finally feels solid, not because it got rescued by some future version of the two of you, but because you actually showed up inside the real one, week after unglamorous week. Imagine the goal you've been planning for years, finally having something to show for it. Not a more detailed vision, but an actual first step, taken on an actual Tuesday, because you stopped rehearsing and started building. Imagine what it feels like to be fully in a room with someone you love, not performing presence, but actually there. Nowhere else. No drift, no 2 inches of distance between your body and your attention. Here's the reframe underneath all of it. You were never afraid of the future. You were afraid of the present's plainness. And that fear convinced you that hope meant escaping today, when real hope has only ever meant staying in today long enough to change it. The thing you thought you were protecting by daydreaming, your hope, your motivation, your sense that something better is coming, was never actually at risk in the present moment. It was only ever at risk in the daydream, where nothing you imagine ever has to survive contact with reality. Your hope isn't fragile, it was just homeless, living in a future that kept moving further away every time you almost arrived. You don't need a better daydream. You need a worse one. One boring enough, one uncomfortable enough, that staying in your actual life finally starts to look like the more interesting option. Chosen ones won't feel ready for this. They'll feel a little embarrassed, a little exposed, a little unprepared to trade the highlight reel for the raw footage. And they'll do it anyway. That's the whole difference. 2 inches isn't a long distance. It's the shortest distance you'll ever have to travel. And it's the only one that actually leads anywhere. If you've stayed with me until this point, thank you for giving this message your time and attention. As we move toward the Pisces Lunar Eclipse on August 28th, the core of it is simple. The future you keep imagining can only ever be a rehearsal. Your actual life is the only stage where anything gets built. The daydream isn't your enemy. It got you through what it needed to get you through. But you're allowed to put it down now and pick up your real, unfinished, unglamorous, entirely buildable today instead. I always come back to this one thought, and I'll leave you with it. You don't need a bigger dream. You need a smaller distance between where your mind lives and where your feet are standing. That's it. That's the whole shift. If this found you at the right moment, I'd love to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me what today has been waiting for you to notice. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing so you don't miss what's coming as we move closer to the 28th. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.